Rigby. I know you're sad, but I promise this is a happy ending. Take care of each other. Goodbye.
My God, all those one-star reviews. I wish I could take it all back.
You can try. You and I together, brother.
He chased butterflies, he loved to laugh, he saved the universe, he was our friend. Pops Maellard is by far one of my favorite characters in all of Regular Show, and not just because I like to do impressions of him. I can taste the Himalayas! I love to talk like Pops, but he was so much more than that. So today I'm going to be going through basically his entire story, all the way from the first time J.G. Quintel even created him in The Naive Man from Lolland, all the way through the series where you get to watch this character stay true to himself through all of this chaos, through all of these episodes, and eventually becoming the man, willing to sacrifice himself for the entire universe. Today, I dive into why we love Pops. Some of you may not know, but before Regular Show was even thought of as a concept, there was The Naive Man from Lolland, a short animation that J.G. Quintel made in college that is basically a watered-down version of Pops, and it's a very interesting thing to go back to, especially if you're a fan of Regular Show, because it's basically just a super watered-down version of Pops. It's still very much the same character, but just not as energetic, and still very naive, but just not the same Pops that we get to see in Regular Show. And he is just a man from Lollyland. He shows up in the United States, and that's when we get to see him going to dinner.
Very good show. I say, we're the handsome chap in the newspaper, don't you think?
Just having a good time, enjoying a delicious meal, talking about himself, and then he decides he's going to tip a good old-fashioned butterscotch ripple, and he leaves that, and the waiter gets very angry at him, which leads to a brawl between him. Pop swings a chair at his face.
Fold.
Drive, Benson. Take me away from this horrid place.
And tries to run away. We even get the flying car with him exiting and going back to Lollyland at the end of the video.
Goodbye, United States.
It's very interesting to see this version of Pops. I love going back to this because you could see that even going into like 2 in the AM PM, that J.G. Quintel had these thoughts, he had these concepts, and just like seeing his groundwork for videos and short animations that he would take from to create an actual beloved show like Regular Show is always very interesting. I just love watching where these characters started from, the initial concepts that led to their ultimate, conceptualization in Regular Show. It's always so fun to see. And then when you go into actual Regular Show, I think in the first couple seasons we really didn't get that many Pops episodes, but he was still a very interesting character to explore. I mean, in The Power, we just get basically the same thing as a naive man from Lollyland, but we have that, energetic, really expressive Pops here, instead of just the watered-down version, where they're like, give us a raise, Pops! He's just like, and he hands them the lollies.
Pops! Check it.
5, 6, 7, 8. Give us a raise, Pops.
Good show! Jolly good show! A pay increase, yes, of course. Just let me get my billfold. Butterscotch ripple. Ta-ta!
I enjoy that a lot. It's just a very, basic Pops. You're not going to get a lot from his character, and he kind of remains this way for the rest of the series. Yes, he has some episodes. Yes, we get to learn more about him, but the thing that I love so much about Pops is he always felt like he was staying true to himself. He feels like he grows intelligence-wise. He goes from being just completely and utterly naive in the first few seasons, but he always feels like Pops to me. A bunch of other characters felt like they need to go on this big change to develop into, like, super meaningful characters and go from just being this horrible person in season 1 to being something truly special in the later seasons, but Pops always was special. He was just a good, jolly good show of an old man. And then you have episodes like First Day, which I think is just a great highlight of just the comedic presence that Pops can have on screen, because some of my favorite parts of that episode aren't even with Mordecai and Rigby. It's just Pops in the background with his stupid looking face just going, "Quartz parchment shears!"
Oh my.
Shouldn't you guys be throwing that thing away?
Benson, come quick! Quartz parchment shears, and they already tied 2 times. It's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, have you ever seen a game like this, like Quartz parchment shears? Oh, they just keep on tying 99 ties! It's just so great. It just makes Pops such a good character, because I think he works so well in a comedic role. You don't need episodes all about Pops, because he is just there to add some flavor, add some spice, and make scenes a lot better with his silly voice.
Good show! Jolly good show! Everyone come quick! The most amazing game of quartz parchment shears is happening right now!
And his ability to be so naive. That's what makes him great. And just set up the chairs, he doesn't really do a whole lot, but the one segment that is always so memorable from that one episode is just him going, "Oh, somebody released the Destroyer of Worlds, good show!"
Oh, who unleashed the Destroyer of Worlds? Good show!
It's just stuff like that that makes me remember and love Pops. He's just so damn funny. And then they just love to keep that ball rolling with just more appearances in a bunch of different episodes where, again, he's not really doing a whole lot to show off his character, but that's because his character is exactly what you see. Even if it's in a 10 or 15 second segment, what you're seeing is genuinely Pops. Prank callers where they call him and just they make a Joe Mama joke, and it's just like, "Oh, I'm holding for a collect call from Joe Mama."
Pops, can we borrow your phone?
Oh, I would, but I'm holding to talk with Joe Mama.
And he's just sitting there waiting. I love it. Those naive moments where Pops is just, you know, oblivious to everything going on around him is what makes him such a funny character. In Hello Governor, when Rigby is freaking out because of the British taxi that's coming to kill him, Pops is all like, "Oh, I have a British taxi." And Mordecai shows up with Rigby to drive in it, and he's like, "Pops, that taxi is yellow." "Oh, my taxi is no coward, I assure you of that."
There she is. Isn't she a beauty?
What the heck, Pops? I thought you said you had a British taxi.
A British taxi? Oh, I thought you said a brownish taxi.
But that taxi's yellow.
Yellow? My taxi's no coward, I guarantee you that!
Situations like that are just so random, but so hilarious. Pops genuinely was just a silly character. He loved to chase butterflies. He loved to go out and just do the most random things. He was oblivious to the things that people would tell them. He was just a silly old man, which is why watching what he later becomes in the later seasons is always so interesting. Yes, they evolve his character. Yes, they shy away a little bit from how naive he is, but it's just so crazy when you watch the first 2 or 3 seasons where Pops is just this, you know, character that could stand out on screen as just being, you know, oblivious to becoming someone who would eventually save the universe. And just because Pops is used as a flavor enhancer, just sometimes being like, "Jolly good show," just to add to scenes, that didn't mean that he didn't get a lot of episodes all about him. And the episodes that he has about him, I can't really pinpoint a bad one, because all of them are really funny and they don't need to expand his character. They just need to be what they are. And that is perfectly fine. Just be hilarious. That's all you really need. In his first major episode where he has a major role, Dizzy, he actually does really well. And I think this episode is great. It has a lot of really funny moments. One of my favorite scenes is when Mordecai and Rigby stumble upon him, and Pops is just so sad because he has to give a speech, and Mordecai's like, "Well, why don't you just pretend everybody's naked? You know, that works for some people." And because Mordecai and Rigby are naked, he just looks down at their crotches and he's like, "Oh, I don't like this."
Naked?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like doing this.
It's so funny. Just scenes like that are so great. And then eventually they're like, "Well, why don't you start spinning?" And he just starts spinning and going around like, "I'm not nervous."
It's working! It's working! I'm not nervous! I'm not nervous! I'm not nervous! I'm not nervous!
and eventually he spins so much that he goes into Dizzy World. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, but it works so well for a character like Pops, especially to eventually meet in this new Dizzy World Igbeer and Icedrum, really fancy looking versions of Mordecai and Rigby who are all for Pops' ideals of never giving a speech.
Sorry about that. I am Ice Drum.
And I, Igbeer.
Would you like some ice cream?
And then Pops, because he doesn't want to leave this world, he ends up giving a speech, but the way that he is able to give a speech is by not facing a large group of people. It's very interesting and it works so well in the final climax of Pops having to escape from these fancy Rigby and Mordecai guys. I love it. It makes for a really good episode, and it was a great start to the episodes that Pops could eventually have all to himself. And then Brain Eraser, which isn't really much of a Pops episode, it's definitely more focused on Mordecai and Rigby, but he has a major role in this episode because Mordecai walks upstairs and is like, Pops, here's your mustache monthly. Oh! Pops' naked body, and they're just both staring at each other. And don't think I didn't notice the fact that Mordecai went for a second look. I saw that. So maybe he did want to see it all wrinkly and shriveled up, his junk mail. Yeah, but Pops is just standing there like, oh. And then for the rest of the episode, Mordecai is just trying to deal with the fact that he saw him naked. And so Rigby eventually finds Planet Chaser's Starlight excellent, and this guy watches it all day, every day. And so Mordecai watches that, and he goes into like that world, and eventually Skips and Rigby have to go in there to try to find him. And when they get in there, the entire like climax, the big finale of the episode, is just chasing around a naked Pops, and it's so funny to look at.
What the? Get it!
I love it so much. See, Pops is already adding to a lot of really good episodes just by being there. Sometimes he doesn't need to be at the main forefront, he just needs to be a character within the show to add so much of that extra flavor to the episodes. God, I love Pops. And then going into an episode where he does have another major role, Really Real Wrestling, which is also just a phenomenal episode to showcase something new for Pops. A episode where it's all like Pops understands wrestling, he used to be a wrestler, Mordecai and Rigby are talking about that like WWE style, and so Pops is trying to show them some moves, and Pops is just taking down Mordecai with a double leg, lands him onto the ground, and then Mordecai's like, impressive, Pops, but you forgot one thing, and tags in Rigby, and then Rigby just jumps onto his spine and basically breaks it.
Pops, but you forgot about this, Rigby!
So for the rest of the episode, Pops is basically just a vegetable. So Mordecai and Rigby sneak out to go see Rassle Frassle, and Pops also does. And this eventually leads to the big climax where Pops has to like get his back fixed when they're fighting actual wrestlers.
This was fake.
They did.
Is this fake?
No!
How about you, little dude? This seem fake to you?
Because Mordecai and Rigby really pissed them off, and so Pops is just showcasing how good of a wrestler he is, just taking down these big muscular men. And as a former wrestler, this entire scene is just so much fun.
Who wants to wrestle?
With Pops just laying waste to them, earning the title and going home happy. And then Pops even stands up for Mordecai and Rigby when they're about to get chewed out by Benson. What a guy. Are there any flaws in his character? I can't even imagine somebody finding him annoying. I'm sure some people didn't like Pops, but to me, his entire character was just flawless so far. And then you have episodes like Viral Video and Butt Dial, which he is again just there to enhance some scenes. Viral Video, the main thing that he does is literally just to get blasted up on a trampoline all the way into the sky, and he vanishes, and that is just such a hilarious scene.
Dude, this is gold!
Wait till Muscle Man sees this.
Dude, look how high he's going!
Dude, where'd he go?
Yes, they eventually have to like go into like the viral video god world and get Pops back and save all the other people. Pops didn't have that major of a role other than being bounced on the trampoline of that episode, but it still definitely made it better. And then the episode Butt Dial, a episode that I genuinely do not really care for other than hanging with Margaret just to feel so good like I knew it would.
Hanging with Margaret just to feel so good like I knew it would. Laughing together and having a blast, and I hope it lasts forever. I can't believe how hot she is.
I really don't care for that episode. I really only like Mordecai singing. But the only other thing that I do like in that episode is just Pops when they call him to try to find Margaret's phone. They call it, and Pops answers, and they say, "Pops, don't move a muscle." And then he just actually just goes like this.
Margaret must have left her phone at the house last night.
Ask him what flavor he's eating.
Pops, stay where you are and don't move. Got it?
Ooh, I love this game.
Thanks, Pops.
And he just sits there, and he's just sitting there with his popsicle in his hand melting because he thinks it's all a game. I love how oblivious he is. It makes it so much better and makes great hilarious scenes, even an episode that I don't really consider to be very good. Pops just being himself in that episode made that episode like at least 2 times better. I was gonna say 10 times, but it didn't make it that much better, but it still made it better nonetheless. Karaoke video. Is that an episode about Pops? No, it's not, but Pops makes it so much better by just, you know, grabbing that microphone at the karaoke bar and just being all like, loose, foot loose, kick off your Sunday shoes.
Been working so hard. I'm punching my card. 8 hours for work.
Just Pops singing Footloose is something I never knew that I needed in my life so badly. But once I had it, it was all I could ever ask for, and it genuinely makes Karaoke Video probably enter my top 20 episodes in the entire series, solely because Pops just decided to randomly just choose Footloose, and just his voice just makes it so good.
And I gotta cut loose, foot loose, kick off your Sunday shoes, please, Louise.
Sam Marin is just an incredible voice actor and is just the embodiment of everything I could possibly need to make a scene funny. Because just genuinely, just Pops singing Footloose while everybody is just having this awesome brawl in the background just creates one of the best scenes, one of the best segments in all of regular show. I love it so much. Gotta cut Footloose!
You're playing so cool, obeying every rule. I think way down in your heart, you're burning, yearning for some.
And then shifting back to the episodes that are all about Pops, Guys Night is a phenomenal episode. It just has such a vibe to it, just a bro vibe to it that I could just love so much, with everybody just being like, Guys Night, having a good time, and then Pops just comes out of the shadows, comes out of the abyss, and is like, chanting, chanting, chanting.
Well, why didn't I receive an invitation to Guys Night?
Well, we just didn't think you'd like any of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, you're not really a guy's guy. You're Pops.
Well, I can be one of the guys too. Chanting, chanting, chanting.
Because he wants to be one of the guys, and the way to do that is to complete the milk challenge. And so he just starts drinking a ton of milk, just not giving up, doing whatever he possibly can.
He's really doing it.
Oh no, bro.
Just over and over and over again, even if he has to just go to the bathroom and just puke out his entire guts. He is willing to do whatever it takes to be a guy, and thanks to some motivation by seeing an old picture book, he goes out there and he drinks it all.
Raise the jug! Raise the jug! Pops?
And this sends him into the milk dimension, where he is able to tell all the other guys that they didn't actually complete the challenge because he didn't lift the jug above his head, which leads to him helping everybody except for one poor chap there to escape. And by the way, I want to go to the milk dimension. I love milk. I'm Kaulos. I love milk. Pops is living my dream right now. Why would he leave that place? But that's besides the point. It's just a great episode that's all about Pops. Just Pops earning his way to being a guy, completing the challenge, and it just makes for such great television. Going into another episode that is all about Pops, Catching the Wave is also a really good episode where Pops gets brutally attacked by nature. Why, nature, why? Where they just like start attacking him for no reason, which leads to Pops wanting to become a surfer. And he has a great villain counterpart to this episode with those surfer guys who are just so evil that you can just hate them right away because they're bullying our main man Pops.
Hey, we should call this guy Mondo Cabezzo.
Hey, Mondo Cabezzo, can I rub your head for good luck?
Which leads to Pops getting his own wave machine at the park and him almost dying, getting sucked into a tube. This scene where Mordecai and Rigby are supposed to be guarding him and he escapes by just creating a giant hole in the shape of his head to escape.
What?
We fell asleep!
Dude, there's no way he got past us. Plus, his head is too big to fit through the window.
The reaction is priceless. Pops eventually learning how to surf, even battling all the surfer dudes and riding the ultimate wave.
No way.
It makes for such a good episode. I didn't know I needed Pops to surf, but everything they did with it was still phenomenal. Pops is just having banger after banger after banger episodes. Going back to more of a side character role, the episode Garage Door has a hilarious start to it, with Pops driving towards the garage, and little does he know that Mordecai and Rigby did a prank in which the garage door is painted to look like the garage, so he just drives into it.
Coming through!
Pops, no!
Such a great start, and Pops being a nice stand-up guy, even though Mordecai and Rigby could have just killed him, he decides to go with them to like the Infinite IKEA, the SCP Infinite IKEA, whatever you want to call it, the biggest warehouse department store ever, basically, to help Mordecai and Rigby get a garage door. And they do all these challenges. They get the jazzy bed, and they just go and do all the challenges and get the garage door back. It's a phenomenal episode. Episodes like Marvolo the Wizard. Marvolo the Wizard is also really good. Taking a character like Pops, who is so oblivious and so naive, and putting him in a world of a Ren Fair that he doesn't know it's a Ren Fair. He thinks it's his reality. And making him question who he actually is, if he is Marvolo, if he is Pops, making him fight a dragon at the end, all of his reactions to everybody, Benson being a mad king, Mordecai and Rigby being Rignacious, and whatever Rigby is called. Either way, it's just great stuff to take this character, put him in a random situation, and just watch him thrive. Pops genuinely may have a dull episode, but I cannot say a single Pops episode has ever been bad. He loved to laugh. He loved to chase butterflies. He was just such a great character to watch in any scene he was in, because he either is just adding so much flavor, adding a really good joke, adding a really good oblivious moment, or getting an episode all about him where he shows off his skills, his determination, and his willingness to do whatever it takes to help his friends, to become one of the guys, or just to survive in a world that he doesn't recognize. Pops was just phenomenal in any role he was in. Even though I like some of the episodes that aren't about the main plot in Season 8, sometimes I have the feeling that if they just devoted all of the episodes to telling this great big story about Pops being the chosen one and the ultimate final person to save the entire universe, if they just showed that episodes, then I think it would be a lot more positively received, because the mix of the episodes that are just so random and honestly mediocre with the episodes that are actually forwarding the plot to the grand finale of regular show was just always so weird to me. Just the way that they were like like placed in the season was always a little bit odd, and having a character like Pops who remains stagnant for the majority of the series. I mean, yes, he had some episodes that would give him a little bit of oomph as a character, but for the majority of the time, he was just a lovable guy that remained the same because he never had to change. So going into season 8, making him the main forefront of regular show basically was always somewhat of a baffling choice to me, especially initially when I was watching season 8. I couldn't believe that Pops was the one who was chosen to be this character. I thought it would have been Skips or Benson or somebody like that to be the chosen one to save the universe, but looking back at it, rewatching it, I am so happy that Pops was the one who was chosen to do this, because the ending that he got, the final episodes that we got, I don't think they would have hit as hard if it was any other character. And the thing that I love so much about this entire arc in season 8 is the fact that even when Pops is faced with all of this, stuff in his way, all of these obstacles in his path, he still stays true to himself throughout the entire season. And that's why I love Pops. In season 7, we got the episode Pop's Planet, which was basically just an episode to say, hey, look, Pops has powers, Pops has powers, jolly good show, he has powers. That's basically the entire episode, because Pops is just infatuated with this planet in the sky. Rigby sums it up really well.
Scope once every 25 years. She's pink and made of rock and is hundreds of thousands of miles wide.
Who is this giant magic woman?
And they are trying to get a glimpse of this planet, and it just keeps failing. They eventually go to this observatory, and this thing pins them to the wall, and Pops' powers activate for the very first time so that he could see his planet.
What the?
Hello again, old friend.
What just happened?
I have no idea.
It is genuinely just a shock episode. Why did that happen? And it is our first taste of what is going to come in season 8. And then in season 8, they blast off into space. They're dealing with all their space stuff. They eventually go to the space tree, and they're just living their lives there now, which was already crazy enough and changed the formula already. But then we get to the episode Dream Warrior, which is an episode where Pops has to face off against this nightmare alien who is constantly trying to find out where he lives.
Excuse me, but you have a minute to fill out this form with your name and address?
And thanks to everybody coming together to help Pops, Pops is able to overcome this and beat the nightmare alien by the end of the episode, but he reveals to the nightmare alien where he lives, and that's when, for the very first time, we get to see Antipops.
1 star.
And I didn't even eat there. Yes, he's on the space tree.
Bad show. Bad show indeed.
Which was always a very interesting choice for a villain, which I honestly wish that we got something different. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with him. He works very well in the plot. I think he's a good character, but with how unique all the regular show villains were, I would have loved for a brand new unique style of villain instead of, oh, let's take jolly good show and make it bad show. Very bad show. That was always just kind of an odd choice for me, but it still works in the context of the show, so I'm not going to complain too much about it here. But either way, we get to see Antipops for the first time, and his entire character, until he actually starts doing stuff, is basically just leaving 1-star reviews at restaurants. Yeah, also a very interesting choice, but I guess it's a little bit funny. And then we go to the space escape, where there is just a immense importance placed onto Pops, and we still don't really understand why, but we're basically getting the picture here, and everybody has to try to sacrifice themselves just so Pops can escape. They come back to try to help everybody, and it eventually leads to Sure Shot sacrificing themselves so that everybody else can escape. And then we just get a bunch of shenanigan episodes for a little while until it starts to pick up again. Ice Tape, where everybody in this episode is just continuously sacrificing themselves for Pops, because Pops is apparently the chosen one, and everybody just dies in really horrible ways even when they don't need to. Not our main park members, but just these people that are supposed to be helping the chosen one Pops.
Go on without me!
You should really have some more self-respect. You deserve to live as much as any of us.
You know, maybe you're right. Oh no, it's really too late. Bee, no!
And at the end of the episode, we get to learn all about Pops' past, how Mr. Maellard found him when he crash landed on Earth, and it's actually a very interesting, kind of wholesome moment to see this different side of Mr. Maellard.
The tape,
Mr. Maellard? Papa?
I couldn't be more proud. Now, I think it's high time that I explain some things to you. A long time ago, I was on an expedition for recently fallen meteorites. People at the time liked the look of them, so they'd pay a pretty penny.
A side that I wish we honestly got to see a little bit more, instead of him just being the harshest man on the planet to Pops, to Benson, to everybody. He seems like a genuinely good person that cared a lot about his son and is deeply saddened that his son had to go and do this, especially when he knew about all the tapestries. It's very interesting to explore this side of Mr. Maellard, and I wish we got so much more of it. But that basically sets it up. Now we know that Pops has to fight Antipops, and they're going to have this big collision at the end of the show. Yeah, it's actually a really good setup, and I think if we didn't get all those fluff episodes, all those random adventure episodes, people would probably respond to it a lot more positively, unless those episodes were literally made to be top tier, the best episodes in the series, but they just weren't, at least not to me. And then we have episodes like Key to the Universe, No Train, No Gain, which are just really good episodes to have Pops training and just becoming stronger to prepare him for the fight, which I really enjoyed. The episode Kill Him with Kindness, which isn't really the best episode for me, but it is Pops telepathically communicating with Antipops to set up a meeting because Pops does not want to have to kill Antipops. He wants to avoid this at all costs.
We could become friends.
And then what?
The joy of friendship lasts forever.
He doesn't want to have to kill his brother, so he sets up a meeting where he almost gets erased.
Pops, don't worry. I'll make it all better.
Are you okay?
And thanks to everybody coming to save him, Pops is barely alive, and this leads to one of the greatest scenes in regular show, at least to me, something that is so different from the rest of the show, where you just hear Pops' heartbeat because he was almost erased, and it's just a POV of him watching Earl and everybody fight Antipops.
You heard him. Let's go.
And we get to watch for the very first time somebody get erased from existence, and it's just such a intense scene where we watch Earl just vanish, gone for good, and it creates so much tension for Antipops and actually builds him up as a villain a little bit more, other than what we had seen before, which was basically just 1-star reviews. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then we have the episode Cheer Up Pops, which is basically just an episode for Pops to be sad and to be fearful about what he has to do, which is kill his brother, and he is very sad that it all falls on his shoulders. So everybody just tries for the entire episode to cheer him up and try to make him happy, and eventually they all get put on a Blu-ray box set so that their memories will stay forever, even if the universe gets reset. Honestly, a very wholesome thing to do if you want to, be remembered forever, and it plays a pivotal role in the end, because here we go, a regular epic final battle, which I think was a phenomenal way to end the show. It had some issues with it that I wasn't really too keen on, but I'm not going to focus on those because this is a video praising Pops, and I think what they delivered for the end was just outright phenomenal. Everything about it. Pops versus Antipops was a lot of fun. It was a really tense battle with our characters being erased and Mordecai and Rigby having to fly up just to impact the collision and get sent back into time so that they could come back and help Pops to actually win. And I really loved everything visually about this ultimate final battle, with the world literally crumbling around them turning into sticky notes, Pops genuinely being sent through a portal back to the naive man from Lolland.
I say, we're the handsome chap in the newspaper, don't you think?
Is that me? Hello? Hello? Where
sure.
am I? What is
I'll be back in a
this?
second for the check.
Antipops!
That was such an interesting and cool way to just show Pops' first origin story. It's so cool what they decided to do with this. Everybody basically turning into a storyboard, everybody being erased. It was such an interesting concept, and I loved how they did it. Pops flying up to the regular through the regular show title, and eventually Pops realizing that it just keeps repeating. There is nothing else he could do, so he starts to try something a little bit different. So he holds out his arms, he grabs onto Antipops, and he begins to fly towards the sun.
This can't work, Pops. The minute you let me go, I'm gonna blast you into nothing.
I know, so I'm not going to let go.
What? Ah! No! You'll kill us both, you fool!
Telling Mordecai and Rigby that it's okay, and this is a happy ending.
Pops, don't worry, Mordecai and Rigby. I know you're sad, but I promise this is a happy ending. Take care of each other. Goodbye.
And he flies into the sun, and that was the end of Pops. And what a beautiful ending it was. This was probably the only scene in regular show that could genuinely make me emotional. Like, I think I've shed a tear at least 3 times while watching this throughout my, decade history of the show. It's just such an incredible scene, and what a way to send off Pops in a way that took this character who was so naive to just making him someone who would do anything to save all of his friends and giving up his own life to do that. And just following that up with this entire just montage of everybody growing up, growing old, leaving the park, staying at the park, becoming who they are, and then it just cuts to Mordecai and Rigby.
Man, I can't believe it's been 25 years.
Yeah, I wish Pops could have been here to see this.
Well, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this.
Yeah.
Mordecai saying that he wishes Pops was here to see this, and Rigby saying, without Pops, we wouldn't even have this. It was an incredible way to just make the ending of regular show so emotional. Pops taking out the VCR tape at the end saying jolly good show one last time was incredible. I loved it so much. It was such a good way to end the show, a really bittersweet ending, but it still worked really well, and it made Pops an absolute icon and somebody to always be remembered as the naive man who saved the universe. He was our friend. In case you haven't noticed, the chapters of this video and what I said in the intro was the words that were placed onto Pops' gravestone, and I think those words honestly just embody who Pops is so well. He chased butterflies, a naive man that was just so wholesome and had a perfect soul. He loved to laugh, a character that could add so much to any scene he was in just by being himself. He saved the universe, and although it was predictable that he wouldn't end up killing Antipops, the way that they went with it was honestly beautiful, and I think made for a great end to the show, and I'd really just admire that Pops stayed true to himself, not willing to change who he was, because everyone was telling him throughout all of that season that he was going to have to kill Antipops, that he was going to have to change, that he was going to have to do something, and for him to stay true to himself and end up sacrificing himself was just so on brand for Pops, and it worked so well for the ending. For what season 8 was, which wasn't as good as the rest of the seasons, I still think it was phenomenal, but it just didn't hit like the other seasons. I think what they delivered for the end of the show was still amazing 10 out of 10 work, and he was our friend. Pops Maellard is an iconic part of regular show, and the Lost Tapes is definitely going back in time just so he could be featured again, because regular show would not be the same without Pops. He was a jolly good show.
Jolly good show.